Okay, and we are live. Hey, folks, it's January 6th, 2021. But we had this scheduled for a while now, so we're going to go ahead with it. Welcome to Publish Like a Motherfucker. Not sure how much we're going to be talking about publishing tonight, but we'll see. Maybe the interest is there. So thanks for tuning in. If you are watching live, I will go ahead and post this to YouTube and my blog and a couple other places later. So if you are not watching live, sorry, you won't be able to ask questions or anything. If you are watching live, we like to make this interactive. We got, two great authors. Go ahead and toot my own horn here for you tonight. So if you have any questions, comments, anything that you want to talk about, doesn't have to be about the subject. I'm guessing tonight it's not going to be too much about the subject, but go ahead and put them in the comments there. So tonight we are supposed to be talking about book rights. So this is course number 7 of the Publish Like a Motherfucker series. You got a bloody right, and the syllabus is you finally got a book published. Now that cash cow is all milked, right? Well, not quite. Along with special guest Wesley Southard, I'll be discussing how worried about rights should I be when signing a publishing contract? What are all the different kinds of subsidiary rights? Which one should I be paying for, and which one should I be paid for? Should I be doing all this myself? Isn't this what you pay an agent for? And with that, let me introduce the Splatterpunk Award-winning author of the upcoming Cruel Summer, also the author of Closing Costs, Slaves to Gravity, all kinds of great work, a big up-and-comer, Mr. Wesley Southard.
What's up, guys? I don't know what the hell I just did with my finger.
Jazz hands.
Yeah, jazz fingers, man.
It's a little bit weird with the split screen because when you do these video things, you're used to having the whole screen.
Yeah.
And when you do the split screen thing, you're like, oh, I gotta be in here.
Yeah. I keep trying to figure out how far back I should be or how close, because sometimes I like to kind of like lean in like that, but then like my head is like 3 times the size of yours, so maybe I should step back because nobody wants to see this fucking ugly mug.
Yeah.
Let me see. It's got better there.
So, like I said, leave your questions and comments in the comments section, and we should be able to see them. And I'm going to put something in here real quick. And the first thing I want to talk about, just so we don't get too far off the track, is the This Is Horror Awards. So if you guys are fans of the podcast This Is Horror with Bob and Michael, which is Michael's a Brit, and I think he's living in Japan, and Bob is an American living in Texas, and they're both big horror fiends, and every year they do an awards show. So their awards are actually nominated by the public. So as long as we're doing this tonight, you guys have until January 15th, which if you're watching it live is next Friday, I think. So you actually have to email the stuff you love. And what I'm hoping at least some of our fans will be doing is mentioning The Perfectly Fine House, which was released in 2020 for Best Novel. Oh, hey! And Brutality, which features one of my short stories, actually The Triumphant Return of Brain-Eater Jones. That is also up for Best Anthology. So if you guys are interested and you agree that either of these were one of the best books of the year, you might want to think about nominating those for a This Is Horror Award. And I went ahead and dropped the link to my blog post, which has a little more information and the email address and everything that you can send it to. So Wes, you had a couple things published this year, and I also know that you are a voracious reader. So if you were to talk to the folks about not being completely self-serving, but maybe a little self-serving, what other things would you recommend them for This Is Horror?
Well, I neglected to actually grab my own books to hold up to the camera. I have like a stack of other books that came out last year, but I didn't hold my hand, so I'm just going to pretend like mine's like holding right here. So this book right here I'm holding is Slaves to Gravity that I wrote with Summer Cannon and came out in August of last year. So that, if you enjoyed that, that could be nominated for novella. This book here is One of Us. uh, published by Bloodshot Books. It was a anthology that is dedicated to Frank Michaels Arrington, who is a very well-known and respected reviewer in the business. A lot of people put this book together with a lot of original short stories and older short stories, and hell, it's even got a Stephen King short story in it too. So they managed to get that, so that's pretty cool. And this one here is Midnight in the Pentagram. That was published through Silver Shamrock. That could also be nominated for anthology, and that's a hell of a book. That was a fun book to be a part of, and I'm really proud of being in that one. And that's a big boy book. I mean, it's all about demons and demonology and gore and blood and all kinds of fun stuff. So that's the stuff I was a part of. But are you wanting to talk about other stuff that came out last year too? The stuff that we liked?
Sure. Yeah. So the big one for me this year, and I'm always kind of all over the place. I'm not usually reading 2020 books in 2020 because I'm trying to get caught up on the past, and I'm just a weird reader. But I really liked The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. I think that would be when you have your 2 slots that you're sending things in, and Wes didn't publish any full-length novels this year, so put his novellas in. But I was a big fan of The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. It was a really incisive look at the American Indian experience in 2020. It wasn't like, oh, it's 1815, which is what we usually think of. It was really, really quite good. But you sound like you have a couple of things to recommend as well.
I have a stack of things. I'm really bad about catching up on the past books. I like reading stuff like almost immediately when it comes out. Like if I have a friend or a peer that I'm a big fan of or that I'm friends with that has a new book coming out, I usually am like one of the first people to buy it on Amazon like the moment it goes up, and then I usually read it almost immediately when I get it. So yeah, last year was it was a really good year for books. I think one of my I'm going to say this is probably going to be one of my favorites from last year, even though it technically came out right before Christmas, but I didn't actually get it in the mail until about a day or two ago because my shipments were delayed and stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and say this is probably going to be one of my favorites. White Trash Gothic 3 from Edward Lee. Love Edward Lee. I know Stephen and I have had many discussions about Lee.
Yeah.
we had a discussion in the back of Brian Keene's car one time that I remember was making you gag when we were talking about all this stuff from his past. So that was fun. But yeah, I'm reading that one like literally right now, and it's fantastic so far. One of my other favorites. So this year for me was the year that I finally discovered Bentley Little. It took me way too long to finally start reading him, and I am a massive Bentley Little head now. And his new book, The Bank, try to get that in there. The Bank came out, I think, back in January, and this, much like all of his stuff, is fantastic. And this one kind of follows the typical Bentley Little formula, and it was fantastic. If you love his stuff, you're going to love this one. One of the shorter ones that came out last year that I really enjoyed was actually one that came out, I think, back in October or November. I think November. It was Kenzie Jennings' splatter western, Red Station. It was fantastic. It's one of the shorter ones, I believe. I think this one's just a novella where a lot of them are kind of like short novels, but this one was very, very good. I enjoyed this one quite a bit.
So for those of you who don't know, there's a whole series of splatter westerns from Death's Head Press, which started with the Magpie Coffin, and I think they just came out with the Coyote.
Yes,
what's Triano's called?
The 13th Coyote.
13th Coyote.
Yeah, I actually got to read that right after he finished it because he wanted to know what I thought. And yeah, it's a beefy book. It's like 500 pages. It's a hell of an epic. I'm honestly not a huge werewolf fan, but that book kind of turned me around and made me a werewolf fan. And it's a great book. It literally just came out yesterday. So yeah, that's a good one. And like you said, speaking of Magpie Coffin, that was one of the early reads this year. I think I got this right when it came out, like right when I went to quarantine, because this actually took like an extra week and a half or 2 weeks to actually get here. So yeah, this was definitely I almost called him by his other name.
Yeah.
This is Wiley Young's. I feel like this was his coming out party. This book was fantastic. It was incredibly well written. It was a great story. Yeah, Wiley killed it with this book. This was fantastic, and this set off the whole splatter western series, and on a very good note with another killer cover from Justin Coons, who nailed it again. Another one of my favorites was one that came out, I think in December, was Bob Ford's new one, Burner. Burner was excellent. It reads like I guess sort of like a mainstream thriller novel where almost every chapter is only like 2.5 pages, and it just moves. It's kind of like a Patterson book. I've never really read a Patterson book, but I flipped through them and I've noticed that like each chapter is like 2 pages long, and every chapter ends on a cliffhanger, and it just goes, and it makes you basically not be able to put it down. And that's what I did with Bob's book. I sat down one day, like on a weekend or something. I was like, I'm going to sit and read this for like 10 or 15 minutes, and I got to go do a bunch of chores. About 4 hours later, I was putting the book down because I just finished it. Like, I couldn't stop reading. It was so good. And then another short one that came out earlier this year that I really enjoyed was Dead Inside by Chandler Morrison. If you've got a strong stomach, I'd recommend this one. This one's great, but if you don't have it, then don't bother, because this book's got a lot of hard to read type of material. It's very unflinching and very raw, and it's a great book. But if you don't like that type of stuff, I'd stay away from this one. But I do highly recommend it if you do like extreme horror. And then my absolute favorite book this year, this is the hardcover of it, but Chris Triana's Gone to See the Riverman. This book was so good. I love this book so much. It's about a woman who is infatuated and obsessed with serial killers, and she becomes infatuated with one very particular one who she goes and meets at a prison, and he sends her on a quest up this river to find someone called the Riverman, and she had to get something from him to be able to take back to the killer. And it's a hell of a journey, and she's going up the river with her sister, and she meets all kinds of weird people and weird situations, and it talks about her backstory and how she became the way she is. And yeah, this is a great fucking book. Like I said, I'm lucky enough to get the hardcover, but I originally read it when it came out from like Cemetery Dance in ebook.
Right.
Which I don't read ebooks very often, like almost ever. And that was actually one of the first ones I actually sat through and read all the way through, because I didn't know if it was going to get a physical edition or not. But yeah, that's a fantastic book. And then my last one, of course, I really enjoyed this one a lot. This was another one of the ones that came out earlier this year. I think right when quarantine happened. This one took a couple extra weeks to get here too, when all that stuff was going down. But this is great. This is another different type of haunted. I feel like I'm pitching it to you right now. No, it's a very different type of haunted house book. It was a really unique idea. I really enjoy this one quite a bit. And this one was a lot of fun. I really like this one a lot. So those were my favorites from this last year.
Awesome. Yeah, I was convinced when you were about to hold up Gone to See the Riverman that you were going to grab Perfectly Fine House again.
I had to save that one for last, man.
Yeah. So I really want to talk about Cruel Summer, but January 6th, man, what the fuck is going on? So like I said, some of you are going to be watching this on YouTube a couple of weeks from now. Hopefully the country's still standing. I don't know. And then you're going to be wondering what we're talking about. But basically, last night there was a really consequential election in Georgia, which was going to determine the makeup of the U.S. Senate, and it did, as it turned out, obviously. And then today we kind of had an insurrection, revolution. I don't know what they're going to call it. I don't know what's going to come of it. But basically, there were these white supremacist, Trumpy terrorists invaded the House. Congress had to flee and they might be back together now. I don't know. I've been kind of glued to my TV all day. So, Wes, you said you were working today. What was your experience like today?
I work in a factory. I'm on a forklift or a tugger machine almost all day, so I can't be on my phone that much. I kind of saw the stuff start to happen around 2:30 when I was on my break, and I pulled up my phone and saw everybody on Facebook like having a meltdown, and I was like, shit, what happened now? And then I went to Twitter to get like actual like news and saw everything going down, and I just none of this surprises me. Just the way shit is going right now, it doesn't surprise me at all. I try really, really hard not to talk about politics online, just because nobody needs another dude online complaining about politics. I mean, I've got my thoughts, I've got my opinions, but it's just like nobody needs to hear any of the dumb shit that I have to say. So it's like, everybody, anybody that knows me or follows me, they know how I feel about things. That's just, I don't know what else to say. It's just, it all sucks. Just, this all fucking sucks. Like, it's hard to believe that this is where we're at right now, that we had a legal, fair election that should have just ended, and it ended and everything was fine. And no, it's not, because people think that there was cheating and it was stolen somehow, even though like all these people that were saying it was, like all these senators and stuff that say it was stolen, or were the same ones that got elected that same day. It's just like, okay, well then what's what here? Either it is stolen or your win is fake too. Like, what the fuck is going on here? So it's just, I fucking hate politics. I just want to get back to just never having to think about it again, but it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. So
yeah, I'm much the same way. Online, I might josh around a little bit, but I generally try not to make politics a big thing.
Yeah.
But it's just, I feel like we're just sitting here with this elephant in this room. And I feel like anybody that's not watching this right now is probably glued to their TVs wondering what the fuck is about to happen.
Yeah.
It's scary. I'm pretty confident everything's going to be okay, but it's just scary to me that shit like this is happening in 2021. I'd hope we were past this. But now I asked you earlier, Wes, so I mean, you can still back out if you change your mind, but you actually recently had Corona. So, like I said, whatever you want to talk about, but what was that like? I've been wanting to ask you. I know I should have just been a normal friend and called you up on the phone, but it's also the thing about where people are going through Corona and you don't want to call them and be like, hey, use up what little strength you have telling your acquaintance how things are going. But how was that? How did that go for you?
It's funny. Like, I didn't get a lot of calls from almost anybody who was during it. And I was really wanting to talk to people, but like nobody would call me or like talk to me. And I'm like, you can't get it through the phone, right? But no, I probably caught it from work from somebody. I don't know. I was that Wednesday before Christmas was the last day at work, and after I got home I just started feeling really shitty and bad, and I was coughing a lot and just wasn't feeling right, and I knew something was wrong. And I was actually supposed to fly home to see my parents for Christmas, like literally Thursday, no, it wasn't even Thursday, it was that night. And once I realized like I might have this, I had to call Southwest and cancel my flight. And I went the next day and got a test from CVS through their drive-through, and I had to wait until like almost the Monday after or whatever to get like my results. But yeah, it was positive. But like my I don't know, it was pretty light, I guess. I think I got pretty lucky because it really, like, other than feeling kind of dizzy a lot, and that's probably because I drink too much soda and don't drink enough water. That's probably more of it. Which, speaking of which, I still can't really taste. Yeah, I still can't really taste it though. That's the problem. No, other than like kind of dizziness, I lost my taste and smell, and that's honestly, the only things that I had that really happened, it's a weird sensation not being able to taste food. And for like the first 5 days, I would try to eat a little bit. And when I realized like I can't taste any of this, I would just stop eating. And really, for almost 5 days, I didn't eat anything. Because once you take away the taste of food, like there's almost like your stomach almost just doesn't even care either. It's
Right.
very strange. By like the fourth or fifth day, I started to finally get hungry. But like when you don't realize how strange food is until you put it in your mouth with no taste. The textures will kill it immediately. I tried to eat soup, like I tried to have chicken noodle soup, and as soon as I put like some noodles in my mouth, I almost immediately spit it out because I was like, this is disgusting. Like just the feel of that food in your mouth when you can't taste it is bizarre.
Yeah.
And I remember the first day that I actually finally started to taste a little bit. It was kind of the same day I started to get my smell back. And I kept walking around the house just all day for like a week, just trying to smell anything that I could. And the one thing that I was smelling the most, because I figured because it's such a strong smell, is my deodorant, like my stick deodorant. And finally, I grabbed my wife's stick deodorant just randomly, and I smelled it, and I was like, wait a minute. And I kept smelling it and smelling it, and I was like, I think I can smell this. I think I smell this. I'm not sure, but I think I do. And I went and grabbed a candle and I smelled that. And I was like, okay, no, I definitely smell that. And it was like, I was like Dewey Cox at the end of Walk Hard when he got his smell back. He was like, I smell you, Twig. Oh, I smell you, horse shit. Oh, it's disgusting, but I love it. Like I was going around the house smelling everything. And I was like, I'm so happy I could finally smell again. So my smelling is back for the most part. My taste is still not there quite yet. I can taste salty foods and like sugary foods. Like I can taste candy really well.
Okay.
And like salty chips and stuff. But Katie made spaghetti tonight right before we got on. And honestly, like meats and stuff, like I still can't really taste meats. Like that kind of meaty flavor of like either chicken or beef or whatever. Like for some reason that still feels very dulled. And like I can I could taste like cheese and stuff like that, but like just I don't know, it's weird. It sucks. Honestly, it sucks. Like, I'm not like a foodie per se, but I do like to eat, obviously. I mean, you can see this double chin in my fucking tits, but it's just not being able to actually taste all the food you're eating it's a bizarre thing. And it's not like your tongue is numb or anything. Like your tongue's fine. It's just that the taste is not there. It's such a strange thing. See, like my in-laws got me like a candy tube of Rolos because I like Rolos, and they always get me like Rolo tubes for Christmas or something. And when I still didn't have any taste, I would eat a couple of them just to see what it was like. And it's strange because your salivary glands, they recognize that there's something in your mouth, and you can feel it when you bite into it. You could feel all the sensations of like all the individual components of like the candy. You could feel the chocolate, you could feel the caramel, and you can feel it across your tongue, and your brain is saying, I know what this should taste like right now. And even like your sense memory is like, okay, I should be tasting this right now. There's that. And there's just nothing. But your mouth is still filling up with saliva. It's just everything's normal except the fact that you just can't taste. It's such a weird sensation.
You got to grow a pandemic beard to cover up the double chin.
Yeah, I can't do much. I can't do much longer than this, man. Once it starts getting a little bit longer than this, and I can start feeling like my whiskers touching my lip, or I can feel like the hair on my cheeks moving a little bit. Like I don't like it. I keep it pretty short.
Oh, okay. Alex Norcross says, "Hi guys, good to see you both. Good to see you too, Alex.
Hey, Alex, how you doing?"
So, I wanted to ask, did you have to segregate yourself from your wife?
I would have, but it was already kind of too late. Like almost like a day or so after I took my test, like she started getting symptoms. It was just like, she got it almost immediately. So yeah, I'm back to work. I'm good. I'm good to go. Like I'm back to work and everything's fine. But she's actually still has like the rest of this week and like this weekend, and then she'll be allowed to go back to her work. But yeah, she's about the same as me. She's more or less good to go, but she still has like another like 4 or 5 days left on her quarantine. But yeah, she's okay too. She had the same kind of mild symptoms as me, but yeah, she's good.
Good. That's, well, not good to hear per se,
Right.
but glad you guys are getting through it.
Yeah.
So, if you're just joining us, and you're probably not because you're probably glued to your TVs right now, but these things, I try and do them live so that we can take audience input. If you want to talk about the Rona, if you want to talk about the weird revolution thing going on, or if you want to talk about best books of the year, let us know in the comments. The actual topic of this purportedly publishing panel is book rights. So I'm going to level with you guys. A couple weeks ago, Wes said, I have a book coming out, Cruel Summer. And I'm looking for, blogs and podcasts and that sort of thing to be on. And when I looked at what was going on with Cruel Summer, I saw a whole bunch of different formats. So like there's the limited trade format, there's the paperback, there's the ebook. I saw you just sold the audiobook a couple days ago, I think. Okay. So I said to myself, oh, hey, that would be a good topic. So we could keep working Cruel Summer into the conversation over and over again without it feeling awkward and salesman-y. But let's do this first. Wes, tell us a little bit about the book itself, and then can you tell us kind of your rights journey, which sounds like it's been a little bit of a wiggly waggly, and you can talk about as much or as little about that as you want, but what's the deal with Cruel Summer?
Okay, so it's really cool. It's a reverse haunted house story. It's no, it's sorry. It's about a young woman and her son and her very, very abusive boyfriend named Hoyt. And she's kind of at a crossroads in her life. She's trying to decide, should I dump this piece of shit, or should I try to stay with him, stick it out, and see what happens, if I can maybe change him and try to get him to be less of a turd. So she decides that she's going to take the three of them on a vacation to a town in Florida that she has been vacationing at with her family for many, many years, much like myself. When they get down there, she's hoping that some change will happen. Obviously, it doesn't. And he still remains a very, very terrible person. And they decide to take a boat trip out to the ocean for a fishing excursion. And bad things happen. And he ends up getting thrown off the boat. They think that they are going to be fine after this. They have to, lie to the police, say everything, he was attacking us, whatever. He fell off the boat. And they think, okay, we're finally out of this scot-free. We don't have to deal with this scumbag anymore. He's out of our lives. Let's just try to move on with our lives. And something underneath the water finds him. A very, very old ancient god finds him and takes him over and basically slowly ramps up from there and gets crazier and crazier and crazier and darker and more wild. And it's a dark book. It's not quite the normal stuff that I write, but I really like this book a lot, and I'm really proud of it. And so far, the advanced reviews from it have been just much better than I ever expected, because I wasn't sure what people were going to think of this book, because like I said, Hoyt is the nastiest character I've ever written. And I was a little worried.
He's your Edward Lee character.
He's my Edward Lee character. Not nasty in that sense, but just a very harsh, say anything that comes to his mind, terrible, lay his hands on you type of person. And like I said, I wasn't sure what people were going to think of this, but so far so good. And like I said, I'm really proud of this book, and I'm hoping that everybody checks it out, because I think it's got some more mass appeal maybe than some of my other stuff does.
Maybe it has some tentacles rather than legs.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
I should clarify. What I meant to say was your Edward Lee style character. Edward Lee, the person is a very, very nice person.
Yes.
So Alex said, Corona sucks, politics sucks, let's talk books. Okay.
Let's do it.
We're happy to talk to you about books. So that's what the book's about. Oh, here's my question. Shadow over Innsmouth. Is this a Lovecraftian pastiche, or am I way off base here?
No. It's that's actually something I wanted to post online about before this came out. This is not Lovecraftian whatsoever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's I kind of wondered if people were going to think that, especially with like the back cover description that I wrote for it. But yeah, it's definitely not Lovecraftian. Something very different and very unexpected. But it's cool though. I so far people have really dug it. So yeah, I'm definitely not Lovecraftian.
Well, gradually bringing us back to our subject, I saw one version of the cover that had a very Lovecraftian tentacle-y feel. And I know that we've now come over to the very scary facial monster. It's like a monster's face kind of cover. So, there's definitely a difference there. But, oh, I'm sorry. We have a question from the chat. Wiley Young says, can you comment on its rumored other title, Aquaholics, Life is a Beach?
I hate you, Wiley. That is a title that my wife jokingly came up with when I was having trouble coming up with a title for the book. I always make the mistake of asking her, if I'm having trouble coming up with a title, like, what should I call this? And I'll tell her what it's about. And I can't ever get a straight answer from her without getting at least 3 or 4 like jokey titles first. And that was one of them that she threw out. Mm-hmm. She thought it was hilarious, told 1,000 other people on her podcast, and now everybody's been calling it that. And I'm pretty over it. And I'm not surprised that Wiley brought that up.
I have been biting my tongue this whole time because it's like one of those things where I'm like our friend Matt Wilderson. He doesn't like being called Dandelion, even though you really, really want to call him Dandelion. Right. And this whole time I've been like, don't call it Aquaholics. Don't call it Aquaholics. Wes is your friend. Don't be a jerk.
Yeah. When I got my contract for my Death's Head press contract for it, Jared put Aquaholics in the contract as the title of the book. I was like, I messaged him back immediately. I was like, nope, send me the real one. I'm not doing this.
Okay. And we have a question from Todd Clark. So going back a little ways, Wes was talking about one of his favorites of the year was from Bentley Little. And you said you just discovered him 2020? Okay. Mm-hmm. So Todd asks, what was your first Bentley Little book you read that got you addicted to Little?
This one, The Association. And I'm really glad I picked this one because I've had like 4 old paperbacks of his on my shelf that I just randomly had over the years. I don't know how I got them, but I just kind of acquired them. And I just was kind of looking for something to read like back in like May or June or something. And I just wasn't digging anything that was on my shelf at the moment. And I was like, I need to check this guy out because I've been told by a few people that I kind of write like him a little bit. And I've been told by like Keen and everybody that like I would really like his stuff, and I just never got around to his stuff. And I just kind of picked The Association up and read the back cover copy, and I was like, all right, this sounds interesting. And then about 100 pages in, I was just like, holy shit, this is so good. And like by the end, I just couldn't get it done quick enough. And I was like, oh my God, I think I may have found like a new favorite. And I've spent the last like 6 months like collecting literally every book he's ever put out. And as of yesterday or the day before, the box I got from my parents for Christmas in the mail had like the last 4 or 5 of his books that I don't have. So now I quite literally have every book he's ever written. And now I can just slowly start to read all of them. And yeah, Bentley's fantastic. I really, really love his stuff.
So it might be too soon to call, but so is he going to overtake Masterton for you?
Nah, probably not. Okay. It's pretty close, but yeah. Actually, Masterton had a new one come out this year too. It was pretty good. It's not one of my favorites of his. What the hell was that called? House of 100 Whispers, I think. It was a haunted house book. It was pretty good. He's got another one coming out in February, The Children God Forgot, that I'm really looking forward to. But yeah.
Okay, we got another question. I think this is a legitimate one from Wiley again. He says, "Is this the lead-in to potentially more mythology-inspired horror stories?" So, was this a Greek myth, or was it any particular myth? Oh, we got to be quiet about that. Is that a spoiler? Okay. All right. So the answer appears to be pointing at the nose for those of you just listening to the audio. So let's talk about rights. So this is supposed to be a publishing series. So for those of you who are new and upcoming authors and that sort of thing, you want to keep a close eye on your IP, which is your intellectual property, and you have different rights that go along with it. So when you think about someone like George R. R. Martin, you've probably seen all the different covers and stuff of his books. That's because it'll be things like there's a German version, there's an audiobook version, there's potentially a trade paperback, there's an ebook, there's an audiobook, there may be a limited hardcover, there may be a limited soft cover. There's all these different rights, and then digging even further down into that, there's things like movie rights, character rights. There's all kinds of things that you are supposed to make money from based on your IP. So Wes, in terms of Cruel Summer, you just did your audiobook, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was that separate from? Was that with Death's Head, or
No.
what's going on there?
No. So I had talked to Jared before I signed the my contract for the paperback and ebook, and told him, because they had just Death's Head is just starting to get into the audiobook game. They've got several of them in the works right now, but I had talked before I had signed that contract. I had talked to Joe Hempel, who runs Fireside Books, about working with him and seeing if he'd be interested in doing an ebook, or an audiobook. So yeah, my audiobook is a completely separate thing from Death's Head. So yeah.
Okay. Now, one of the things you'll want to do when you're signing a contract is to see exactly what rights you are signing over.
Mm-hmm.
So usually, typically, I think every contract I've done has been 5 years before rights revert back to me. So one of the things I've been doing, because I've been doing this for about 7 years now, so in the last couple of years, some of the first stuff that I published is starting to come back to me, so that 5 years comes up. So really all you're signing for when you sign up your first publishing contract is, and you want to be careful about it, you don't want to sign away your rights in perpetuity. Jesus Christ, do not do that. Okay.
No.
You want to typically sign 5, maybe 7, maybe it's different in New York, but generally speaking, 3 to 5 years. And with shorts, it's usually 1 year. So you have a problem with secondary rights. People usually don't want secondary rights. So like I published Brain Eater Jones in 2013. I could, in theory, if I was E.L. James, sell it to New York or somebody again. But they're not going to want to reprint a book that's only sold, 10,000 copies or whatever Brain Eater sold. But yeah, if you have some multi-million-dollar big property, you might sell your secondary rights. But generally speaking, what you're going to do is you're going to republish it yourself.
Now, didn't that happen with John Dies at the End? Was that not like that was shit. What was the press that Permuted put it out, and then it got really, really popular, and then a New York publisher put it out like right after that, right?
Yep, yeah. That is exactly what happened.
Yep.
And a movie was released of John Dies at the End.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And what'll happen is they'll sometimes, when you have movies or TV shows or stuff like that, that'll then jog interest in the book, so they'll do a second printing or a third, or whatever it is, printing of the book. So like the original John Dies at the End has that certain cover, but then the reprint of John Dies at the End is clearly like Stanley Tucci and like the characters from the movie.
Yeah.
So Oh, that's it. So you also had Cruel Summer come out in limited trade paperback from Thunderstorm, correct?
The hardcover, yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about what that process was like. And speaking of Thunderstorm, we just heard on Twitter just a few minutes ago,
Yeah.
Paul Goblish, good friend and our mutual publisher, he has also been sick with the fucking Rona. Sounds like he said he's doing good and he's trying to kick its ass. So, best of luck to you, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what was that like?
Well, I mean, we all, not to dredge up old shit, but we all know what happened last summer with, whatever. So Paul, being the absolute sweetheart he is, helped me give a home, at least a temporary 52 copy home to Cruel Summer with Thunderstorm. And yeah, they were Paul was the first one to actually publish it. I guess it was last September, I believe, September or very early October. I think it was September. So most small press like Thunderstorms, like limited edition presses like Thunderstorm, or I'm sure like Subterranean or Cemetery Dance, they're just one-time contracts. They pay you out one time. They're only in use for the one time, just the one-time printing of however many copies it is, and you still have your rights for everything else. It's just that they want it just this one time for this particular small signed limited edition run. But I still had paperback and ebook rights and all the rights for anything else I wanted to do with it, except for just this one limited run right.
Yeah, so with that model, that's kind of the scarcity breeds desire kind of model. So it's like 52 and they're gone. So it's completely different from, say, a paperback or an ebook where the idea is, let's sell as many as we can and I'm going to get paid per copy.
Right.
Paul's business model is, hey, 52 and it's a collector's item, and if you don't get one, you don't fucking get one.
Yep.
So then, the other thing, and I don't think this applies to Cruel Summer yet, but maybe you can either correct me if I'm wrong or not, but let's talk about foreign rights. So you and I also have another mutual publisher, which is Dunwich Edizione. So if any of our Italian language fans are watching this, channel,
is that how you say it? Edizione? Edizione? I don't know. I was just marveling at like your accent there. I like it.
How do you say it? I don't know.
I say it very American, Edizione or something.
Oh, all right. Well, I don't know. I was a German major, so those Romance languages are all.
I barely made it past freshman year Spanish. I think I actually failed it.
Well, however it's pronounced, let's say Dunwich Editions.
Yes.
So I had my experience with them, and I've been trying to get into more foreign markets. So you will really generally not see a whole lot of stuff in your contracts about foreign rights. It's usually pretty explicitly like, this is for your English language rights, and you kind of do whatever you want. So I have been cold calling essentially foreign presses and saying, hey,
same here.
Yeah. So to date, Dunwich is my first. Now, when I reached out to them with the hematophages in late 18, early 19, they said, sounds great. Can you also give us a novella to help market this? And that is actually how Skin Wrapper was born. I sort of had the idea, but nobody was begging me for some weird offbeat novella in that universe. So for a while, the Italian language version of Skin Wrapper was actually the only one available to people. And that same thing is going to be happening later this year with the Ghoul Archipelago, which I've also sold to Dunwich. So
is that your next one?
That's the next one Dunwich wanted.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's way out of order, but that's the one I just sold. So what was your experience with your foreign rights like?
It was good. I did kind of the same thing. I just kind of cold emailed Mauro. How do you pronounce his last name? Saraceno?
Well, again, we're both
Yeah.
English speaking American.
Yeah.
I think it's Mauro Saraceno. That's what
Mauro Saraceno, yeah. So I kind of cold emailed him too, and was like, "Hey, I here's who I am. This is the book I have. This is what it's about. Are you interested?" And I heard back. I don't know. It kind of took a while. I think it was like four, maybe 5 months or so later, and it said, "Yeah, we'll take it, absolutely." Now, the first thing I sold them was One for the Road, which was just a novella. And they don't do physical copies of novellas. Like they don't do like actual like trade paperbacks of those. They just do ebook versions. So the only thing I have out through them right now is just the ebook of One for the Road. And you and I have talked about it in private about like the Italians. Like they do really enjoy their horror, and their reviews are really great. Like they're really flowing and kind of beautifully written. And as I'm like kind of like moving, like I'll like cut and paste their reviews and I'll put it into Google Translate, and I'm just reading them and I'm like, damn, these reviews are better written than my book. I guess it's just the language that they use. It's very nice. It was really like kind of flattering a lot of the time, because like that book is really over the top and ridiculous, and they were making it seem like it was like so much more like amazing. I don't know how to say it. It was just funny reading the reviews. But yeah, no, my experience with Dunwich has been great so far, and Morrow has been fantastic. I mean, I've already sold him 2 more books. I'm doing Cruel Summer with him next, I think in June, I believe. June 21st, I think is what the date is. And he's also putting out Slaves to Gravity, the book that Summer Cannon and I wrote. So I don't have a date on that one yet, but yeah, it's been good with them. I really enjoy working with them. I hope I keep it up.
Yeah, I haven't been able to figure out yet if it's a translation difference or if it's a cultural difference.
I think it's more cultural.
Yeah, but I think they just write in a more poetic fashion, or else Google or I think they maybe just speak in a more poetic fashion.
Yeah, probably.
But their compliments are always like, it had the beauty of a rose or something, and I'm like, I sort of understand the metaphor, but
and then us in America, we're just like, beans.
It was good.
Beans are good, man. Like, I like this book. Yeah.
So Todd Clark says the cover by Alex McVeigh for Cruel Summer is awesome.
It is.
So is that the one with the monster with the mouth that we were talking about? Okay.
So I actually have, and also Mr. Kozeniewski was very kind to help throw in on this, but I had you and several friends and family members actually buy me the original artwork, if I can get it in frame here. So yeah, I actually have the original painting from Alex framed. I can't put it on the wall yet. It's too heavy because I can't put nails in the wall here. But yeah, that's my beautiful original here. But yeah. The cover is fantastic, and I'm really happy that we got to use it again, because I love that cover so much, and it's so eye catching. And I knew if we put it on the paperback, it would be just as eye catching, because it's just so nice. I didn't want to use it just once.
Okay, so you'll have to give us a little bit of context on. Well, actually, let me show you back to the rights thing, but a little bit kind of askew from that is your cover art rights. So I did actually want to do this, but I didn't know if we were going to get to that point here. But let me see if I can do it with my camera. If you can see up there, that's the original cover to Brain-Eater Jones, which my girlfriend, my current girlfriend, who was at the time just a very close friend, she actually got that for me as a gift. And she had to contact the publisher who owned the rights to the cover to make sure that it was legal to recreate. So there's a lot of rights that go into that. So like we were talking about Alex McVeigh did your cover. Glendon Haddix did that one I just showed you.
And then who did this wonderful cover?
And that was Chris Enterline. So the reason why I had to do that with my second printing, I probably could have paid and gotten the rights to the original cover and republished it under the same cover. But I I was like, I have to pay either way, so I'd rather pay and have something new and present it as a second edition, put some new material into it, new edits and stuff into it. So remember that like your cover rights don't belong to you, the author, unless you purchase them from the artist.
Right.
So like that was a discussion I had to have with Enterline and be like, look, I get that it's yours, but I want to be able to use it in perpetuity. I don't want you to suddenly pull the rug out from under me, you know, and that kind of thing. So keep in mind that not everything belongs to you as the author. Now you're going to have to give us a little bit of context with this, Wes, but Lori, who I'm guessing is a relative.
That is my mother.
Okay, so your mom says the poster in your sister's basement is awesome?
Oh, yeah. My parents got a gigantic, like, I don't even know how big it is. It's probably 4 or 5 feet tall and like 3 feet wide of the cover, the Thunderstorm edition cover of that they framed and put in my sister's basement. It's humongous. Yeah, it's pretty cool. They really like that cover a lot too.
Very cool. All right, so we're coming up on about 10 minutes to the hour, so we can keep talking if there are a ton of questions, but we're probably going to start to wrap it up now. So get your last couple of questions in. But let me look back at the syllabus and see what we didn't cover. Okay, so one of the things, maybe we've been dancing around a little bit, but the whole reason why you would want to sell your subsidiary rights is to get more money. So one of the things that I would encourage new authors, yeah, you're not going to be a great known quantity right out of the gate, but don't think that just because you released your book and maybe it didn't do so well, you know, on your first printing, that, oh, well, that I'll just write that book off. I'll tell you something interesting. Ghoul Archipelago, we were just talking about. I have my suspicions. I'm not 100% sure why, but it has this whole other life in audiobook. It doesn't sell that great in ebook. I'm not 100% sure why. I think it's at the sweet spot. I think people like to buy audiobooks that are like 12, 13 hours, and it is. That's the only thing I can think of, or else that the audiobook market is weirdly gaga for zombies. I don't know. But you get a little bit of payment. So like when you sell your Italian rights, the Italian publisher pays you. When you sell your trade paperback rights, the trade paperback publisher. So that's how you can get a little bit of flow from the same manuscript, you know, over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. We have a couple of questions that I don't understand. Wiley says,
God. Oh.
Are you ready to announce Squash Noggin, a rural horror story?
That's gonna be Wiley and I's rewrite of, or that's gonna be our own version of Pumpkinhead, Squash Noggin.
Oh,
that's hilarious. I forgot about that actually.
Is that actually happening?
This is something we joke about in text all the time. I actually kind of forgot about that. That's funny.
Okay. And
that's silly.
May possibly be a real question here. Wiley asks, conversely, what are you working on now?
So what am I working on now? I am working on a co-writing project with author Lucas Mangum. It's called The Final Gate. I think it's going to be a novella, probably like a longish novella. It's basically our tribute to Italian horror master Lucio Fulci. So I don't really want to give away too much about it, but it's really, really awesome. I'm really happy with the way it's turning out. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of funny because it was just kind of bred out of a comment section on Facebook of something that Brian Smith posted something about how like authors, what book or like what movie that doesn't have a novelization would you want to novelize? And I had said, like, since being a big Fulci fan, I was like, oh man, I'd love to do a novelization of City of the Living Dead because that movie has a lot of inexplicable weirdness. And I was like, man, I feel like I could do this justice and give a lot of like weird, like backstory to stuff that doesn't really make sense in the movie that would make more sense in like book form. And Lucas was like, oh man, I'd love to really do one for The Beyond, which is a huge, love that Fulci movie. and we got kind of talking back and forth, and we were like, oh yeah, if we wrote this stuff, we would have to make sure we do this and make sure we do that, and kind of do the Fulci tropes of the certain things that he always has in his movies. And
eyeballs and sharks,
eyeball gouging, zombies, shit. Just, yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. I'm like suddenly blanking. But then we got to talking, and I got to thinking about it, and I was like, I got to thinking about the idea for this book, and I was like, man, this would be really cool. I don't know how we could pull it off, but I really want to write this with somebody. And I kept thinking about Lucas, and I was like, he's the only other person I know that's like a writer that's a big Fulci fan like I am. It's like, why don't we try this? So I messaged him and asked him if he'd be interested, and he was all aboard on it. And yeah, we're like 10,000 words in right now. I'm not sure how long it's going to be. I'm guessing probably 20 or 30,000, probably closer to 30, maybe 35 or something. But yeah, it's coming out really cool. So we're having a lot of fun with that right now. And other than that, I got a couple of short stories I want to write for open submissions. And then after that, finally going to start work on this haunted house novel that I really want to write. It's like a reverse haunted house. It's a really unique idea. I don't think anybody's ever done it, but yeah,
sounds original.
Yeah, it's cool.
As long as you didn't psychically steal the idea from somebody else.
No.
So I think the only thing we didn't cover that I put in the syllabus, one way or the other, was agents. So I briefly had an agent, and we kind of amicably split. We kind of amicably split. So I think that what we've been talking about from the indie or self-publishing, or however you want to describe it, side, you do kind of have to hit the ground and do all this stuff yourself. Like you basically contacted all the people we've been talking about tonight. You or your PA or something.
Oh yeah, I don't have a PA. It's just me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess one of the benefits of an agent is she's going to know, say, the Italian publishers. She's going to know all the people, and she's going to take a cut. So it's kind of the same issue that you always have with an agent. They're going to be making you more money, lump sum, but they're taking a little bit off because of the value that they add to you.
Yep.
I guess there's not too much to belabor in that point, but one of the great reasons why you would want an agent is to be like, maybe I'll break out in Poland, maybe I'll break out in Hungary, maybe I'll break out, like I was saying, weird things like Ghoul Archipelago is really popular on audiobook. I wouldn't have known if I hadn't put it in audiobook. So we do have one more question. It's probably going to be the last question. But if you guys have other questions, we can stay for a little while.
Yeah.
So Alex says, how much control have either of you had with audiobook production? How hands-on have you been on that end? So how about that, Wes?
I mean, I only just signed the contract for Cruel Summer with Joe Hempel and Fireside just a week or two ago. So I've spoken to one or two other people that are working with them right now, and I know for a fact that they are hands-on with the choosing of the narrator that they have. So like for Cruel Summer in particular, I know for a fact that I want to have a female narrator for this book because it's mostly in a female's POV. And that's one thing I really like to have on there. So as far as I know, I'll be able to have a choice in that. I think Joe has been working with, I think he's been in the business long enough where he knows plenty of narrators, and he'll be able to send out excerpts of the book to them, and they'll record themselves reading it. And I think they'll send it to you, and you'll be able to listen to it and say, okay, I really like this one in particular. And then he'll either say, yeah, me too, or probably say, well, let's try this one instead or something. So I'm pretty sure that I still have the choice in there as far as what I remember from my contract, I think.
So Cruel Summer is actually your first audiobook?
Yeah. I'm really excited because it's definitely something I've been wanting to jump into for a while, but honestly, I've been too cheap to pay for it myself. Yeah. So that's kind of what I wanted to do it with somebody else first to see how it goes. But yeah, I know the audiobook industry is really popular right now. Like my wife, even when she's doing, she's kind of taking an extended break from her show. But she really tries to like do audiobooks for her show because she just doesn't have the time to sit and read like a lot of other people do. So she's really big into audiobooks. I know a lot of people are big into audiobooks, and that's one thing that I'm really happy I'm finally dipping my toes into.
Good. So I have had a little bit of experience with this. I actually have not had that experience. I haven't gone with a purely audiobook publisher for that, right? For Brain Eater Jones, I signed away the audio rights with the original publisher, but I'm pretty sure they went through ACX to get it done.
Yeah.
So ACX is it's Amazon. I'm not sure. I forget what it stands for, but it's like acx.com, and it's basically Amazon's audiobook production site. So the other two, Billy and the Clonosaurus and Ghoul Archipelago, that I did, I went on ACX, and what you do is you post an excerpt on ACX. It's a little bit of a laborious process, but you'll figure it out. You just go there and you say, I want to do this, and it'll kind of walk you through it, and you'll be like, I need a fucking synopsis and this and that and the other. But you go and you put it all in, and then you want to pick out an excerpt. So what I would do is I would usually pick the toughest excerpt in the book, or be like, okay, this is the goriest section, so I want them to know that this is, extreme horror or something, and they're not going to be like, oh, I thought it was about a girl washing up on an island. So then it goes out on ACX. And this is kind of like a marketplace, like it's trying to introduce the authors and the publishers to the narrators. So I'd get some narrators that would come through, and it would be this terrible crap. Like I got this guy with like a down home Memphis accent who was doing Brain Eater Jones, who is basically a Chicago gangster. And I was like, this is not a first person. I'm like, no, he doesn't. He just plain doesn't sound like that. So you get some crap like that, and you got to kind of sort through it. But once you find the right narrator, then you've got to make a deal with them. So what Wes was saying was, if you don't have the money for it, you can offer royalty share. Now, your really good narrators are not going to be interested in royalty share because, again, Brain Eater Jones by Nobody Kozeniewski is not going to make you that much money in the end.
Yeah.
But they'll either do royalty share, which means it's like 50-50 narrator and author, and then, that happens great. Or you can pay the narrator outright, and they're usually going to be pretty hefty. It's something like $100 to $200 per narrated hour.
Yeah.
So like I was saying earlier, like Ghoul Archipelago is about 13 hours, so I would have been looking at $2,600. And then I would get all of the royalties in perpetuity for that. It's just something you got to measure, and if you start to know good narrators, go to them and be like, hey, can you audition on ACX so I can approve you? That's the other thing I would recommend. Like now that I know a couple of really good narrators like Jennifer Fournier, Steve Rampici, who have done my books, I always tell them, hey, audition for my book so I can use you. So that's kind of what that was like.
I had kind of a funny experience on ACX. I think it may have been it was last year at some point. I was trying to do it. I was just said, screw it. Like I want to try to get an audiobook done of One for the Road. And I put up the stuff, and I was like, okay, these are, these are a bunch of guys in their 20s. They cuss a lot. They make fun of each other. They act like assholes. Like this is what they are. And I got some decent auditions, and I got one that I really liked. And I told the guy, I was like, hey, would you be interested in royalty sharing? And he was like, I don't know, like maybe. He goes, how much do you expect this to sell? And I was like, well, I don't know. This is my first time doing this. I was like, I mean, honestly, like I really like your stuff, and I'd love for you to do it. But if you want to walk away, that's fine. It's no skin off my ass. And then I literally never heard from him again. So it's like, all right, well, never mind then.
Yeah. I'd say in terms of how hands-on Alex was saying. I'd say it's like any artistic endeavor. It's the same thing I do with like Enterline when I'm doing the covers. I would say trust your narrator, the same way that I trust my artist. So that means you kind of got to find the right person and trust them to do it. Because if you're going to be micromanaging every chapter that they're narrating, you're just going to drive them crazy and they're not going to want to work with you again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, you could go in, they're going to say, do you approve this? And you could go in and be like, you pronounced Southard wrong, fix it. But, or like, I really wanted this to be exciting and you made it a boring section or whatever. Like, you can do a little bit of that, but I'd say generally trust your narrator and understand that this is a different product from the baby that you produced. It's kind of like they're putting their imprimatur on it now.
Yeah. And plus, everybody, when they read a book, they read it in their own voice. So, yeah, it's always going to be different for everybody.
So Alex says, nice, sounds like a good setup. Congrats, Wes.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
And we have Ross Killey. Ross says, do you guys have agents? And if so, where is a good place to look for one in the horror field?
I do not. I'm mostly small press, so you don't really need one for small press necessarily, because I mean, you're already like, I mean, let's be honest, we're not making that much money, so it wouldn't be enough for an agent to really bother with. Agents are really wanting to work with like New York presses and stuff like that, and unless you're doing that, they're not going to bother with the small press stuff.
So I mentioned it earlier. I did have an agent. We didn't end up placing the novel, so we ended up dissolving our partnership. It wasn't anything rancorous. It's nothing like salacious. I don't have anything bad to say about it. It was just a business arrangement that didn't pan out. So I will say that this is changing a little bit, but there are not a ton of agents that do horror. I've been starting to see more and more, and I'm going back into the agent trenches to get a new one. There's no simple answer, but Ross, what I'd recommend that you do is you got to do your research. If you start on Agent Query, and Agent Query is probably a good place to start if you're really just kind of getting your feet wet. And you look for horror agents, and you may have to come at it a little bit crosswise. You might want to look for thriller, sci-fi, and maybe it'll be the kind of person that would take horror. And then you're going to basically research that agent. First thing I always tell people looking for an agent, make sure they're not a shark. You want to research and make sure this is a legitimate person that is not just going to take your money, or even worse, just be worthless and just tie up your manuscripts for years. So do your research to make sure they're not a shark. Then do your research to find out what they want. So what they're generally going to want is a query letter and probably a synopsis and probably a portion of your manuscript. So if they say they want that, send that to them. If they say they want you to dance around backwards and do the hokey pokey and turn yourself around, you got to fucking do that. It's just this thing. You just have to do whatever they ask for, or they're going to find a reason to reject you. So go out, do a little research. You can do Publishers Marketplace. You can just Google horror agents. They're out there. They're out there to be found. I wish I could tell you, hey, there's a really quick way to cut through that, but there just is not. You just have to do the research and dig down into it. Agent Query is a good place to start.
How legit are those like Twitter things that I see pop up a couple times a year, like Pit Mad and stuff like that? Like how legit are the agents that are looking at those, if there actually are agents that are looking at those?
That is how I got my agent.
Okay.
I actually got my agent through Pit Mad. I will say that it's mostly garbage, which is why I always tell people to do your research.
Yeah.
Usually when I get hits on Pit Mad, a lot of them are like Southern Basement, publishing, and I'm like, well, I could have worked with them for free, and I don't want to work with them anyway.
Yeah.
But there are genuinely agents that are out there that are looking, and they participate in that Pit Mad. There are legitimate agents that you can do through that. And what Wes is talking about is Pitch Madness, which it's the hashtag is pitmad. That might be another good thing to look into, Ross. Look up the pitmad when the next dates are. I think it's probably going to be spring for the next one. So you go on Twitter, and instead of pitching a bunch of agents and hoping one of them says yes, you put your a very brief Twitter length query out there, and the agents that are interested will like it, and then you're open to send them your submission. So that looks like all the questions. So we'll probably call it quits there. And I really wanted to say thanks for coming out here, Wes. And is there anything else you wanted to say to folks? And
no, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. It's
okay.
it's always good to see your beautiful face.
Thank you. And where can folks find you and find Cruel Summer and all that kind of stuff?
I mean, I'm on all the social medias. I'm pretty easy to find. Just Wesley Southard or Wes Southard. I'm on all of them. WesleySouthard.com is the website. Cruel Summer coming out this Sunday, the 10th. It's up for pre-order right now. The paperback might be up on Amazon right now. Shh, keep that quiet. Yeah, that's what I got. And then actually, I know I've talked about it online before. I actually have another book coming out in May, a novella that I wrote with author Mark Steensland called Where the Devil Waits. That'll be out through Cemetery Gates Media in May. I don't have a date for it yet, but I know it is May of this year. So that's another one. So
okay. And I am Stephen Kozeniewski. If you can spell it right, you can probably find me online. I'm going to put a link to my blog in here and at the end that I put in at the beginning as well. So just a reminder that the This Is Horror Awards are out, and that is a popular, by which I mean popular vote award. It's also a popular award, but it's an award that is nominated by popular vote. So if you like Perfectly Fine House, if you liked Slaves to Gravity, whatever you liked of 2020 from the two nice folks, see, yeah. I'd hold up Slaves to Gravity, but I read an arc of it. Didn't I? I blurbed that one, right?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. So you could, send an email and nominate some of our stuff to This Is Horror if you feel it is deserving. Otherwise, that is also where you can find my blog, where you can find the non-pitchy stuff and future Published Like a Motherfucker. If you have any subjects that you want to bring Wes back or bring somebody else on for, let me know. So thanks very much to our special guest, Wes Southard, and thanks to all you guys for coming out. Try not to get caught up in the revolution, and don't get that fucking coronavirus, and we'll see y'all next time.
Bye, guys.